So let's talk about Pokemon Masters after it's been out for about a week. Obviously, I did the live stream. That's the footage you're seeing here. The live stream like the first day of and jumping into it without transferring in any other Pokemon and just seeing what the experience is like as a standalone game. And that's kind of how I treated it, just because I think I've just been a little lazy at getting some of my other Pokemon from the main games and bringing them in. So obviously just kind of treating it as its own thing. Me personally, at least. I've been playing every day. I've been logging in for a bit, getting my dailies done, and then doing whatever else I need to do in the day with other stuff. But so far, I think it's a fine game. Now, obviously, day one, right, there were some bugs here and there that were not good. And from my understanding, some of them were patched. I didn't have any issues myself, but it's never good for a game to launch in that state. And the other interesting thing, aside from like whatever technical issues there are, that potentially, those can be fixed along the way, and hopefully are fixed within a day or within a week or so with a game like this. The other thing is that the state that it launched in, it was very interesting, just with how, I don't want to say incomplete, because it was intentional to release it with, okay, here's this pool of Pokemon, and here's this pool of items, and so on, and they want to build from there, which I think, a lot of games do, but the thing is just that Pokemon had already existed with everything else for a while, and especially too, with the fact that it is coming out in April, and we have World Championships coming out in August. That's a whole thing, obviously. I think that maybe this would have been fine. If it would have come out like this in August, I think that would have been a really fun play time to be like, hey, let's mess around with stuff. Let's try out weird items. Let's try out some Pokemon that are, unconventional. And obviously you still got your conventional Pokemon here and there, right? But there are a lot of funny things too, a lot of funny clips I've been seeing. Quick Claw just being one of the, handful of items in the game is really funny, because I'm seeing some funny clips with Quick Claw. But otherwise, at least I'm getting into that, and I think that's like a fun idea. I think it's a super fun idea to have a different kind of format, a limited kind of format, or one that's like, hey, let's try some stuff out, let's try something new, and let's build from there. And I think that would be totally fine. But again, just the fact that we're in 2026 and it is April, and we'll see. I think I'm not necessarily sure. I think that starting next month, this is how they're going to be handling competitive stuff. I need to double check things like that. So in terms of like, from that perspective, that's something to potentially worry about. But for the general consumer and stuff, I think it's been pretty fun, or the general Pokemon fan, because it really does emphasize the whole, this is how you should be kind of building a team. The overall tutorial stuff, I think, was a little too tutorial-like. And I think that obviously once you jump online, I think this is like one of my first online battles or whatever, just from day one, right? Using only Pokemon that I get in the game without transferring things in. You go up against a lot of bots early on, and I think that's an interesting way of doing things, of like, hey, here's your bot, here's a real person, and then play until you lose, and then you go down, and you're like, alright, well, I guess at least in my experience, in the lower ranks, you get matched up against a bot again, and so, free win or whatever. We'll see how things go, and I'm sure, obviously, at the higher ranks, it's definitely not the case, obviously. So I think, like, as a casual fan, I've gotten into battles, I've, like, played online, and I know generally how you should build a Pokemon team, maybe, or at least I used to know that. And I think the experience is definitely different if you're transferring in Pokemon up from your main games. Like I said, just kind of going in and treating it as its own thing and utilizing the systems there. I think that overall it's not that bad, especially too because the Pokemon that you scout, or recruit, they're pretty decent in terms of like, hey, here's this moveset, here are their EVs done this way, and so on. It kind of gives you an idea of what the strategy should be, and generally if you want to change things, it doesn't cost too much VP, and even in getting the VP, that's been pretty manageable. And then also some of the recruit tickets, or whatever they called, in order to keep your Pokemon permanently, just because I'm honestly having a lot of fun starting from zero. And again, this is just like totally a casual opinion, so that from that perspective, in terms of like scouting the Pokemon, getting your Pokemon there, and building up your team, and so on and so on, I think that's kind of fun. It's kind of a neat little idea, and so far it's been fine. Generally, I think I mentioned though, with the actually seeing the Battle Pass stuff, let me see, can we take a look at like Battle Pass necessarily in this? Where was that footage? I think when I was looking at the shop or something. Oh yeah, here when we're in the shop, and the Battle Pass being $10 Is that what? Yeah, the premium pass version of it, and then the extra additional purchases. I would totally prefer if you could just purchase this with VP. I really don't see why you can't. Membership, I suppose that makes sense to be paid, but I think the regular premium pass, you should just be able to buy with VP. And just the fact that they're doing this, I honestly might prefer that, or just utilizing VP and having an option to purchase VP, which that one sounds like the scummy thing, but I think that having that sort of system where it's like you buy the stuff, even the battle pass and or maybe memberships or stuff like that, you buy that with VP, but you can still buy the VP separately. I don't know, just because that's how it is in a lot of other games. Let's say, I don't know, like Fortnite and Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. So this one, it does kind of just feel like just seeing an actual money price in there. On top of that, if you did also get like the starter pack, then yeah, there's that. I'm not a huge fan of the monetization, though so far I'm finding that at least VP rewards are decently generous, I think. You get how much VP do you get for winning a match, and then you even get some for losing some, even if you rank down. So it's like not completely terrible if you happen to lose a match. So I think it's been pretty decently fine. And again, just considering the fact that you can transfer in Pokemon through Pokemon Home, so it does kind of get rid of, yeah, you get like 300 VP for winning, and you get a good amount of like battle pass points. And again, even for losing, I think you get like 100. So that's like a few battles to get through, and if you're going through there, I will have to like really get to maybe a higher level and we'll see how things are. And just the battle pass, I was at least happy with the battle pass setup. Maybe not necessarily how you go about buying it, but I was happy with that. So just like logging in and playing every day, because I think the dailies are like log in, recruit a Pokemon, and play in a ranked battle, something like that, which like that's a pretty decent and you get like your 500 VP and those tickets there, so that's like a cute little way of the dailies. And so yes, this has become one of those games that gets into my daily routine of let's play it, or let's open it up for a few minutes, do the dailies, and then maybe move on to the other game that I have to do the same thing for. But overall, I think it's been pretty fun, at least casually, right? And there is still that competitive aspect to it, obviously, because it is Pokemon and it is a potentially competitive format. I've been having a lot of fun in terms of like finally getting some things that work and actually kind of doing some weird other little teams. I've been having a lot of fun in singles. I've found a new appreciation for Quackable, of all Pokemon, that I never really hated before, but it was just one that I never really got the opportunity to use. But then seeing like, oh, it's a pretty good type. It's got Aqua Step and Moxie. That's really funny, and it even gets Baton Pass if you want to do that. So, and again, just the some of the clips I've been seeing of different Pokemon getting some additional use. Torkoal's back in the spotlight. The monkeys, the elemental monkeys, are around as well. Beedrill, I think, is able to actually do something here because it actually hits Mega Floette pretty hard, which that's also really funny. So overall, I've just had like a fun week. I'm still cautious. I'm still very cautious of this game, though, in terms of like, okay, how are things going to really work out in the long term? How is competitive going to really work out? Is it going to be fine? Like overall, I think that maybe what the game might have needed. Definitely it needed 6v6 battles. The fact that that isn't there. And I mean, they always had it for Battle Spot. That's the thing, though. And I'm saying Battle Spot, but I think that's only what it was called in Gen 6. I don't know what it was called later on. But basically that, where you pick your team of 6, and if you're doing doubles, you pick 4, which is VGC. Or if you're doing singles, you pick your team of 6 and then pick only 3. I don't understand necessarily why you can't do that as a format, even if you set up like a private battle. I don't get why that's not available, when I think that should be standard for something like this. So it should have definitely launched with that. I think visually it looks nice. I like how it looks. Maybe a little more on the plasticky side. Maybe the lighting could have been done a little better, a little more cell shaded-ish, but it kind of fits in line with Pokemon stuff. I think they give you kind of a little story basically in the beginning, in the tutorial stuff, and that's there, they're only for the tutorial, but I at least like it. It's a cute little touch. Just that they're kind of like setting things up like, hey, here's this world, here's the characters, and go through this to learn how to battle. But the tutorials, I think, were just super baby mode, though. But otherwise, I think that just the fact that they had all these characters and had their little interactions, well, the actual visuals ended up being a little clunky here, but I really think that maybe there should have been some more single player stuff or some more NPC type battles within the game. You know, obviously calling the place Frontier and then not giving you the Battle Frontier options or not trying to recreate it. I think it really should have been that. Hopeful. I mean, you know, it's always like the thing is with games like this, unfortunately, it does come down to like, ooh, fingers crossed, a future update adds it, and then it, you know, never really does. But yeah, I think the thing is the tutorials were like, I get it, because it was definitely, in my last video, I was saying basically how there was a big potential for people who basically just almost never interacted with battles in Pokemon to jump into this and try it out and have some fun with it, and I'm glad people are, but I think maybe the tutorials could have been a little better because it literally does not let you pick other moves for some of these tutorials, because one of these I was like trying to select a different move and you literally cannot, so but I mean, I like the setting of it, so I think overall just kind of, after a week, it's interesting and I'm curious to see where it goes. I personally would have had it in a different place at launch. I personally would have added a lot more in various aspects. Again, the battle formats definitely would have added more. I would have released it earlier. I would have had more time between now, or more time between release and World Championships, if you're going to do that staggered release of like, hey, let's update it with a new batch of Pokemon, let's add a bunch more items, let's do this and this and that, because I think that's still fun, and I personally like the idea of it because of the variety that it provides. But I don't know, I'm thinking maybe like every month we get some sort of update, which I suppose, you know, and then maybe by the time we get to August, the game has basically everything that's in Scarlet and Violet, maybe all Pokemon, or actually no, the Pokemon pool is obviously going to be different, but maybe we'll have a lot more Pokemon, and maybe every item, right? I think that's the other thing of like the extra variety of items that we're just really missing in this game. So I think this is fine. I think this is a fine start had this game come out earlier. That's my opinion. As a casual, it's really fun. As a casual, it's good to see people playing this game and having fun, and all the jokes and clips and videos going around, which that was going to happen regardless, just because of how the Pokemon fandom is, and just in terms of like sharing stuff online and interacting and, you know, haha funnies here and there. So I'm at least glad that it's kind of setting into that. It's at least kind of like falling into that, okay, this is now a Pokemon game. This is going to be one that people are playing a bunch right now, and that we're excited for like potential updates and so on. And, you know, I don't think there was much doubt of that. So I guess I don't want to say mixed feelings, but I will say that I think it was a decent start, but I'm really curious of how it's gonna go. That's the thing. It was a decent start, but I think it really needed to have like an amazing start in order to really prove itself, in order to really set the tone of like, hey, this is how things are going to be for this game. Hey, you know, everybody get into this game and have fun and enjoy it, and so on and so on, and like how these are how potential future updates are going to be. Word vomit, but I guess those are my thoughts on Pokemon Champions. I'm definitely going to continue playing it casually, and I'm very interested to see what they do for future events. So far, I don't know, I haven't seen many people do much aside from like, hey, let me post this video like my team, or kind of what I was talking about last week in that video. So I don't know, maybe it's time to start innovating. Everybody's all set. Hopefully everybody's got their teams ready, and maybe, you know, maybe I should transfer my stuff in. Let's go ahead and innovate. Let's make some new fun stuff. But let me know what you think in the comments below about Pokemon Champions. Have you been playing this week? What are your impressions? What are your thoughts now that we actually have the game in our hands? Good, bad, positive, negative? Let me know. Anyway, this is Gatorex on the second channel, and I will catch you all later.